It's our duty on Living the Life to provide an apolitical insight into human stories that matter as a metaphorical voice for the voiceless. And tonight we are absolutely honoured to host a very special guest on this subject.
Absolutely. Well, she's a leading member of the House of Lords Committee on Sexual Violence and Conflict, not to mention the chairman of the All Party Parliamentary Group for Foreign Affairs. And last year she was appointed by the Prime Minister to be a trade envoy to Iraq.
Indeed, she's with us in her respective capacity as a chairman of AMAR International Charitable Foundation, as an international charity working in the Middle East, aiding civilians who are faced by conflict, disorder and disruption. Well, we are of course referring to the Right Honourable Baroness Nicholson, who's here to tell us about AMAR's latest work in aiding suffering young Yazidi women in Iraq and helping to break their stories. Lady Nicholson, welcome to Living the Life. Such an honour to have you here.
Thank you very much indeed, but none of this Lady Nicholson. My name's Emma.
Lovely.
Okay, well, you don't have to call me Sir Saj, you just call me Saj.
Okay,
yes.
that's fine by me.
Deal? Brilliant.
We're on.
Brilliant.
Lovely. Thank you for joining us. Look, let's go back to this. It's a very serious topic, but let's go back to the charity itself. What does the AMAR Charitable Foundation actually do?
The AMAR Charitable Foundation delivers services. AMAR, as you know in Arabic, although I've misspelt it when I made it up in 1991, stands for the builder. So our tagline is rebuilding lives.
Wow.
And so we do.
Okay.
Where others flee, we go in. When there's huge conflict, when situations are absolutely untenable, that's when people need help. That's when they need education. That's when they need their friends to come and sit beside them, give them water, give them help, give them food and all the rest of it, and clothing. That's the AMAR Foundation for you. So we have a couple of thousand people, staff and volunteers on the ground. In Iraq, they're Iraqi, in Lebanon, they're Lebanese, and so on. And the objective is to help the people survive, to help them build, and to provide structures that are permanent.
It's funded by general donations?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. Well, I'm a beggar, an absolute beggar.
You're a fundraiser? Like
I'm not the chief fundraiser. Oh, no way. That's MISA. But I'm the chairman, so
sure.
I go out begging every day of the week.
Okay.
So do the dozen of us who are in London. We're tiny in London, even smaller in Washington, minuscule in Utah. We're hoping to set up little circles everywhere of
sure.
fundraising.
Okay.
But the real weight of AMAR is on the ground, real experts, real doctors, real teachers, real nurses, and we don't go away. We're there.
You have many years of, I suppose, history of doing a lot of great work in charity, but in terms of the work you're doing now for Yazidi women, where did the motivation, the inspiration come from for that particular cause?
Compassion, the misery they're suffering. What's happening to the Yazidis shouldn't be happening to anybody, and much of it is happening to girls under the age of 15, 16, 17, 18. Right now, can you believe it, to the children of 2. And of course the men are being killed. And of course it's not just the Yazidis, it's the Faili Kurds, it's the Sunni, it's the Shia. It is this monstrous sort of lethal fungus of a thing that calls itself an Islamic State, which of course it isn't.
I mean,
it's very cruel indeed.
It's very unusual for any charity or government body for that matter to actually bring people out of the situation, but even more so bring them to London or to the UK. How did that come about? Because bringing people out of a situation within a country is one thing, but actually taking a step further, what was the objective behind that?
You're quite right, it's almost unique. And I depended very much on the kindness and help of the Immigration Service, for example, and other friends who really pulled finger, made sure that we found the right paperwork, because of course people like that don't have paperwork, and that's why they can't move.
Yep.
But I met the girls, these 3 beautiful young ladies, gracious, charming. When you think what they've been through, one's only 16, you can't believe their dignity and courage and courtesy. I met them individually in Baghdad at the beginning of May, which shows you how long it took to get the visas, even for a very short visit. And each of them told me individually their stories, and they were hair-raising. How on earth they're alive. It's a miracle that they're even standing. And their dignity was unbelievable, each of them.
Emma, we have actually got a great story here to actually highlight exactly what we're talking about. So this is a great feature which will really give you, the viewers, a bit more insight about what is actually happening there right now.
فسألوا الرجال والنساء عن بعض. أخذوا الرجال لجوا قاموا البنات قالوا البنات قوموا، يعني كل واحدة ما تقوم يعني يضربوها يشدون من شعرها يحطون بالسيارات. الصبح يعني اجت الأمراء مالهم وسووا اجتماع وبالأول اغتصبونا. قالوا لنا يعني حيل كنا خايفين وكنا نبكي يعني. وقت اللي شفت يعني كل يوم ياخذوا بنت ويغتصبوها حاولت أنتحر. قالوا يعني هاي اللي على أساس هو اختارني أخذني على المستشفى. قال يعني إلا بالسوري يعني بهاي اليوم أغتصبك. أخذني على المستشفى أعطاني يعني الدكتور أعطاني علاج. وقت اللي رجعت أخذني من بين البنات ويعني شد إيدي ورجلي بالزور اغتصبني.
I mean, it's quite horrific.
We can't even begin to imagine what it must be like for the group, for the people out there right now who are suffering these injustices, not just there, but around the world in so many different locations under different circumstances. But in terms of bringing the stories here and bringing these young women here, what are you personally hoping that the charity will achieve through highlighting this pretty dire situation?
I responded immediately to what the girls themselves wanted. I said, what can I do for you? Each of them said, we want to tell our stories. That's almost unique. I've never met a girl in this situation who's been abused like this who ever wants to speak about it again. They want to go and bury their heads and disappear. So I said, why do you want to tell your stories? Because of the people who've been left behind. There are 5,000 at least young women in this situation in Mosul and also in parts of Syria who've come from Iraq. Yazidi mainly, because for some extraordinary reason ISIL want to wipe out the Yazidis, but not only Yazidis. So they said, we want to tell our stories so that the others can be heard about and can be rescued. So I said, right, that's one thing I can do for you. I will do my very best to get you to Britain and tell your stories to the British people, because they also said, we want to tell our stories to people who understand. And we've had a horrible time here locally. People don't understand. So I knew
Well,
the British
stay
people
with
would
us,
respond.
because we're going to find out exactly how people who do understand can get involved. And let's go back to Emma. Emma, just the girls are not here anymore.
No, the girls are not here anymore, but I hope to see them in about 10 days' time.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the long-term plans? You know, you've brought the girls over here. They've had a chance to speak to a few people. What are the long-term objectives of that visit?
The long-term objective is to try to get released from the ugly clutches of ISIL the 5,000 young women who are still trapped as sex slaves and worse inside Mosul. And that's what's in my brain every moment of every day and at the evening at the moment. What the girls told me it means that we've got to get in there somehow. Personally, what I'd really like to do, more than anything else, is to talk to a senior ISIL member and to try to talk about what on earth's going on and why, what it is you're after, what do you want, why are you doing this. Because at the end of the day, as you know, talk is the only real way in which humans resolve their differences. At the moment we're hurling weapons at them and everything else, which seems to be the only way of getting at them. But in the end of the day, we've got to talk. But it's impossible to talk to an ISIL member. If somebody gives away any telephone number at all, even their most senior people, they're killed on the spot.
I mean, on that note, other than yourselves and the military, who else is able to get in and maybe, you know, try and broker that deal, so to speak?
Well, obviously I'm very close to the Iraqis themselves, the senior people in the military and in the government particularly, and they are struggling very hard indeed. 1/3 of their whole nation has been occupied by ISIL, and somebody said it was half of poor Syria as well. So we've got to get a grip on this awful fungus that is growing because it's poisonous. Its actions are not good, they're not kind, they're not friendly. Its actions are damning and devilish and desolate.
The thing is, the intentions aren't clear. No one knows really what they want. You know, you hear so many different stories and different versions of this is what they're about. We just don't know, and it is very worrying when you see the fate of certain people, even the local population there. Everyone seems to be suffering in that environment.
I think it's clear what they want. They want power. They want authority, they want land, property, everything. They've taken all the businesses, all the property, all the goods, all the belongings of the population, whatever faith they happen to belong to. These people are just flat out plain greedy, but they're monsters who are greedy. They want what people work for, but they want it without the work. It's quite primitive. I think if anything to talk to one of them face to face.
That'd be good.
Because if you don't start talking, I mean, at the end of the day, how can you change anybody's mind? Now, I'm not suggesting we can change many of their minds, but unfortunately, like a fungus, they've infected a whole load of other people.
Have any communications, is there any indication at all that they can be spoken, they can be talked to, they can be reasoned with?
One of the young ladies who was with me told me, when I said I've got to speak to these people, she said if the guards were to give away a telephone number even to somebody like me, the guards themselves would be killed on the spot with no mercy immediately to have given away any link to any real ISIL person. And you see, in the Mosul situation, I don't know Syria. I've only been to Damascus once and before all this happened. In the Mosul situation, the really miserable thing is this is all the Mosul senior people, and the same in the Nineveh Plain. This is your local doctor, your local dentist, your local councillor, your local chairman of this, that or the other. These are the guys who are running all of this. This is the absolute squalor and misery of what's happened, which is why I say they're just plain greedy. Worse than greedy, and using cruelty to enforce it. Nothing to do with religion. It's not to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion.
That's an important point. It's nothing to do with Islam.
Nothing to do with religion. There's no faith in this. There's just pure, flat-out cruelty to get what you have, that I want, that I don't want to have to work for. That's what it boils down to.
Before we finish the show, Emma, very briefly, once again, just tell us how can people get involved and support the charity?
Look up the website, the AMAR International Charitable Foundation, or just AMAR. It's capital letters AMAR, which in my rotten Arabic is meant to mean the builder. I know I got the spelling wrong. There should be AMAR, but actually it's AMAR Foundation. Loads of ways of helping, whoever you are and wherever you are. Any gift, any activity, anything, be part of the AMAR family. We really need you. Fantastic. We've got 500,000 patients, and we're running on a shoestring, and we teach about 60,000 people a day. So shoestring is stretching rather hard.
To have you. I'd love to bring you on and talk about maybe your music next time. It'd be lovely.
Music's even better. I'm thinking of inviting him to come and teach music in the camp.
On the note of music.